you guys did enjoy a lot last testing about one of the two new infantry commanders, CJ.
석준공.
And I promised you that I would analyze the other commander, Pakal, which we are all very anxious to test and see how he performs, especially in a rally situation. Will he be able to slap Zenobia better than Zhang Yu and Chandragupta, or is he just one of the many rally meta wannabe commanders? Well, it's good that you're here because we are going to break this commander down from head to toe. Let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome back to Wick Gaming. Every new commander, especially the ones with the Conquering and Garrison talent trees, are very awaited releases in Rise of Kingdoms. It's in the developers' interest to keep the game fresh and interesting, so we can suppose that almost every other commander might be able to change the meta. This also brings up the fact that one commander after the other, without boosting or at least revising the old generation ones, is going to translate in a catch-up game that only a few players are able to sustain, but I am positive that sooner or later Lilith will try to mix things up in order for the metagame to be shuffled again like a deck of cards, which might lead to a new sprint of interest in researching which are the best combos in the game. Let's start with our usual preliminary considerations over this commander, which can only come from accurately reading the skills and trying to understand their implications. Let's start from the beginning. Active skill, balance strategy, deals skill damage to the current target, damage factor up to 1300, and troops led by this commander gain a 3-second shield that can absorb up to 500 damage factor. Second skill, Ruler of Palenque, the classic stat skill with a bit of conquering taste, with 30% increased health, 15% increased march speed, and extra 5% damage when leading a rally, which I remember being a multiplicative and not an additive bonus. Extremely solid, very few commanders have high amounts of health like Pakal does. Third skill, Divine Sovereignty. This one is the pure conquering skill, active when rallying strongholds or cities. Infantry led by this commander gain up to 40% attack and have a 20% chance to dispel any current active slow, poison, exhaust, and other weakening effects. This skill can trigger once every 10 seconds. We can skip the increased attack part, which is pretty straightforward to be honest, but we will focus more about the dispelling effect and the probability correlated to this skill effect later on. Fourth skill, Holy Tree's Blessings, reduces all damage taken by up to 10%. Also, while on the map, this is a conditional bonus, this commander reduces all damage taken when surrounded with a damage taken decrease of 5% per stack with maximum 6 possible stacks. This means that the damage taken can go down by another 30% if you get directly attacked and swarmed by 6 marches. Expertise skill, Mayan Strength, 20% increased counterattack damage and 5% extra damage reduction from all sources for 3 seconds after using an active skill. And Pakal's active skill or the second commander's active skill, this does not matter as long as it's an active skill. This effect can trigger at most once every 5 seconds. Okay, we have now carefully read all the skill effects, but we need to go back to the third one and do our usual preliminary math. If the effect is the same as described, and I am recording this part of the video before the commander is released, today is the 24th of July and it's 23:37 UTC. It should work in the same way of two other commanders, one epic and one legendary commander. The epic commander is Kusunoki with his active skill, which has a similar effect, while the legendary commander is Theodora right here with her expertise skill, which actually enhances her active skill. The only difference between Pakal's effect and Kusunoki's and Theodora's version of the skill is that it's tied to a probability to activate. And for a good reason, I would add, otherwise this commander will be totally unbalanced in my opinion. This probability is, when the skill is at the maximum level, 20%, but there is also a cooldown of 10 seconds to be taken into consideration. This skill can trigger once every 10 seconds. So the dispelling effect can happen at most one time every 10 turns. Let's now assume that the dispelling effect takes place in turn 1. This means that from turn 1 to turn 10, the effect cannot take place again. But which are the chances for the effect to activate again in the next turns? Of course, on turn 11 you will have a 20% chance for the effect to activate again, and so for turn 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, etc. if they are taken individually. But which is the overall probability for it to happen in an X amount of turns? Well, we can represent this particular case in percentage with the function of X being equal to 1 minus 0.8 at the X power multiplied by 100, where 0.8 is the 80% chance of not happening, X is the amount of turns, and of course we multiply the result by 100 to obtain the percentage, which is easier for us to picture. This basically means that you have a 20% chance for the skill to be activated again on turn 11, a 36% chance for the skill to be activated again in one of the two next turns, turns 11 and 12, then a 48.8% chance for a 3 turns span, 59.04% chance for 4 turns, 67.23% chance for 5 turns, 73.78% for 6 turns, and so on. And with X tending to infinite, the probability will tend to 100%, but without ever touching 100%. So let's say that even if you battle for 100 turns, there will be a chance of 0.0000000203704% of the skill not activating. Well, sorry for that, I know I'm digressing, that's not relevant. What is actually relevant is that we have already a chance of 48.8% for the skill to activate within the next 3 turns of the end of the cooldown, so basically 1 chance on 2. Rally reports are normally very long, but I suspect that average luck battles will have this skill activating approximately around every 12 to 14 turns. That's a bit less than 2 skill cycles. So we have enough data, at least theoretical ones, to say that this particular skill is half as effective as Theodora's or Kusunoki's skill. In this way, Pakal might still suffer from debuff counter rallies and items that debuff you, such as the Concealed Dagger or the Morse Web, for example. As we like to test every single mechanic in the game, I can confirm that this type of skill, at least for Kusunoki and Theodora, also removes the self-inflicted debuffs that some commanders might inflict to themselves, such as in the case of Harald Sigurdsson's third skill, Varangian Guard, which stacks up attack and debuffs defense at the same time, but the dispelling, the clearance, or the defog as I like to call it, only affects the negative attributes and the control or weakening effects of any sort. That's why if you, for example, pair Harald with Theodora, when Theodora casts her active skill, Harald will be cleared by the defense debuff, but he will still benefit of the attack bonus. Of course, Harald and Theodora is not really the best combo to rally with, because one single synergy between two commanders does not make up for a good pairing. In the case of Pakal, though, this might be a little bit more interesting, as he is an infantry commander and also a conquering one, and we know that Harald Sigurdsson is also an infantry commander and is excellent in rallying with commanders like Guan or Alexander the Great. We might see some synergy going on already. But which would be the implication of this defog effect on a pairing such as Harald and Pakal? To answer this question, I have to say that this all depends on how much defense does Harald on average debuff himself. Let's say that Harald's average skill cycle is 8 seconds, which is a fair number. And thanks to the fourth skill, Stamford Bridge, you have a 20% chance of casting the active skill again each turn, with a cooldown of 5 seconds. Now we will not consider any other effect that can contrast this skill, such as, for example, Elseed's disabling effects. So, following the previous principle we applied for Pakal, this means that with average luck, by the time that Pakal clears the defense malus, Harald will fire off 3 to 4 active skills and therefore apply around 4 stacks, resulting in a 20% attack buff and minus 20% defense debuff. Considering the skills being fired always in the same points, in a perfect world, you would average about 10% overall defense debuff in that time frame. That's it. No minus 75% defense anymore, but probably just an overall minus 10% defense. And bear in mind, this if and only if everything works as it's described on the game. Otherwise, I'm literally building a paper castle right now. But if that's the case, and considering that Pakal has an extra 30% health buff on his second skill, this might be one of the most balanced health defense rallying combo ever. Will Pakal's third skill, together with his bulkiness and the overall anti-swarm technology, represent a good pair for Harald and potentially become part of the new rally metagame? I think that's one of the questions everyone is asking for this commander. Players would like to see how Pakal performs with the new infantry commander CJ, but mainly with Harald Sigurdsson. Not speaking about the fact that Pakal has a great deal of extra counterattack damage, and Harald does too. And besides, Pakal also compensates with a good amount of health the all-in attack technology that Harald has, and he also takes decreased damage when swarmed. And infantry is not cavalry or archers, which normally are less resistant to swarms, with the due exceptions of course, like in the case of Attila and Takeda for the cavalry and Cyrus, Ramses and Nebu for the archers. So I apologize for the long introduction. I went through all the math as usual, trying to present you a good preliminary review to see if this matches up with the reality. I remember still being 6 minutes before the reset, and this commander has not yet been released. Okay, today is the 25th of July, the day of Pakal being released in the game, and here we go with the first testing. Just a few words as usual on the testing conditions. We are rallying a level 1 pass, trying to balance as many factors as possible, such as city skins, VIP levels, troops joining and when the troops are joining. The rally is also being reinforced by 1 extra million troops each side, 3 fully expanded marches which are going in as soon as they can. Both the rally leader and the garrison leader are using a balanced equipment, as balanced as possible in order for the difference between the equipments to be neglectable. Of course, in any real fight there is RNG involved, random number generator. Going over to the reports, a couple seem to be at the beginning in favor of the garrison and in the second half in favor of the rally, but this is not an extremely relevant factor. I really think that the testing conditions are fair on both sides, and again we tried our best for these to be as similar as possible to a real scenario. Of course, in a Season of Conquest KVK, the support skills are involved, but that's another speech and we cannot take that in consideration, like a million other factors such as the reinforcement behavior, for example. We are trying to have the best reinforcement behavior as possible, filling up as soon as there is space in both the garrison and the rally. In a real KVK, I would also suggest to reinforce with the lower troop counts. In a real KVK, I'd also suggest to reinforce with lower troop counts in order for the rally and the garrison not to have low and high peaks of troop counts. But again, that's even another chapter. The first testing involves Ramses and Nebuchadnezzar, because we wanted a reference to compare the strength of Pakal with, and we thought that Ramses and Nebu will be a good pick. This is the talent tree that Ramses is rocking at the moment. As you can see, at the end of the battle Zenobia wins, with not such a big difference in wounded and remaining troops. I would like to remember one important point. The most of the wounded troops you get at the end of the battle when the rally and the garrison troop counts increase in difference, so please do not base your conclusions only on the power lost, but we will speak about that. In a real KVK you will reinforce as soon as possible and the final result is based off many different factors. The only thing I can say is that in a sort of sterile environment like we are doing right now, Zenobia never loses against anything, but we already know that. This does not mean though that you cannot get positive traits. You absolutely can. First infantry test, still not with Pakal, this time with Guan Yu and CJ to complete the other video speech. If you want to see the testing of CJ, click the card up on the top. Honestly, CJ works much better in a group fight situation on the field compared to a rally. The rally result is a little bit underwhelming. Guan and CJ together have a great skill damage and attack output, but cannot deal with the healing of Zenobia. Also, while the garrison had only 3 reinforcements, only in this case we screwed up and sent 4 reinforcements in the rally instead of 3, so the rally had even more troops compared to the garrison and still lost against Zenobia. This is the talent tree we used on Guan Yu. Second infantry test, Guan and Pakal. We thought of Pakal to be a good balance to Guan Yu's attack capabilities, and in fact, this rally is really not bad. I really think it might have good results when equipped properly. I will try to balance defense and health as much as possible. I am going to give you some equipment combinations later on the video. The only problem of this combo is that, again, you don't have any way to counter Zenobia's healing other than the silencing that for a reason or the other seems almost not to make any difference, considering the healing numbers on Zenobia's side. I think Lilith might have to recheck the silence effects when attacking a garrison. There might be something wrong with that. Anyway, this is the talent tree we used on Guan Yu, same as before. Third infantry test, Pakal and Alex. I have already seen some reports around proving that this combo was very promising, so we thought, why don't we test that? And so we did. And the result was that we received a bit less damage, but we also dealt a bit less damage comparing to the previous test, Guan and Pakal. Overall, this combo might be promising if used with the right support skills, also because many players already have Alexander maxed out. It is surely worth a shot. Not exceptional, but not bad either. This is the talent tree being used on Pakal. You can try and pick some Conquering talents, but I'm not sure that giving up the defense tree is going to boost up your results by much, if anything at all. Anyway, you might want to try. Fourth test, the two new infantry commanders together, Pakal and CJ. Probably this test right here was one of the worst, if not the worst. Definitely not a good synergy between the two commanders, at least not in a rally situation, which is surprising considering that most of the time same generation commanders go very well along together. Well, maybe next time. Test number 5, the one you were probably waiting for. Pakal and Harald. This combo, together with Guan Yu and Pakal, had the best result in this round of testings. I will put this one at number 1 of this round of test. I went through literally every single turn in the battle log, and as I expected from my analysis, the Divine Sovereignty skill effect activated 7 times in 90 turns, for an average of 1 time every 13 turns circa. So 1 time every 13 turns, Pakal was clearing the debuff on Harald's defense. The battle log at a certain point is discontinued because there is a limit of turns that are being recorded in a long battle, but even in the end part where the last turns were reported, the result did not change. So this is a proof that the skill is working exactly in the way it's supposed to. Now, which combo should you test out? I believe that the best ones are Guan Yu and Pakal and Harald, with Pakal being primary commander, taking advantage of the excellent defense tree. Should you use this rally against Zenobia? Probably yes, as a tanking rally, so in a situation where you are double rallying a flag or a structure. I still believe that the best one yet is Zhang Yu and Chandragupta. On a side note, I would also say that Ramses and Nebu is excellent, but unfortunately they are threatened a lot by Jadwiga that can easily be sneaked in a flag and totally destroy your rally. So yes, rally leaders should really consider using Pakal and Harald, especially in a Season of Conquest KVK where you can use a Boudica support skill, because that will give you a great amount of healing every time you cast a skill, and with Harald that is only going to be an advantage. And Pakal plus Harald is probably also very difficult to counter rally considering the amount of anti-swarm technology on both commanders, the extra counterattack damage being a very big deal and the damage taken reduction if you get swarmed. Definitely a very strong rally. Which equipment do I suggest for this combo? Well, considering that Pakal is clearing the debuff, I will still go for some health, so that's my top option for equipment combination for this rally. The Helm of the Conqueror, the Hop Clock, the Hammer of the Sun and Moon, the Karyak's Humility, and the 2 pieces of the infantry set, the gloves and the boots, for a total of 25% attack, 45% defense, and 10.5% health minimum, of course, depending on if and which legendary pieces you can get a special talent on. If you guys would like me to make a video on field combinations for this commander to see if and how he works, remember to leave a comment. Also, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and activating the bell for notification in case you would like to support this channel for free. It really helps me out. Okay, I'm out of here. I really hope you enjoyed the content. I will see you on the next one. Ciao!